Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'm KT, and this is what happened. Tonight, I've got a special Bible story for you. This is a story about how being left-handed delivered a nation. With that, let's continue our Judges in the Bible series with the second judge of the Israelites named Ehud. But before we get into Ehud's story, let's do a very quick recap of who judges in the Bible were. Judges in the Bible were leaders that were put in place to deliver the Israelites from under foreign powers. They came after Joshua died, but before the first king was appointed, who was Saul. During this time, the Israelites went through an expanded time where they would fall in and out of favor with God. This was based on their behavior becoming unpleasing in the sight of God. So they would do well and they would be free. Then they would mess up and God would punish them by putting them into the hands of a foreign power. Yeah, really strict punishment. But some of the behaviors were kind of wild too. But with that, let's get into part one, Ehud's story. So at this point in time, the Israelites are coming off a 40-year span of peace, but they did something offensive in the eyes of God. This is so rinse and repeat that the Bible starts by saying, again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of God. So for this offense, he put them under King Eglon of the Moabites. How did King Eglon come to be in power? Well, he partnered with the Ammonites and the Amalekites, and they rode in and they took over the city of Jericho. The Bible also refers to the city of Jericho sometimes as the city of palms. Ehud was the son of Gera the Benjamite. This is really only important because it shows that he comes from the tribe of Benjamite, which means he was a descendant of one of Jacob's 12 sons, Benjamin. Now, Ehud was left-handed. You all may be asking, KT, why is it important that Ehud was left-handed? Well, it's important to the story, so roll with me. Once Ehud is in power, the Israelites come up with the plan, and that is to send Ehud with a small group to go pay tribute to King Eglon. So there are a couple of things that we need to note. Number one is that Ehud had made a double-edged sword. It was about 1 cubit long, which is about 17 to 18 inches or 0.45 meters. The next thing that is important to note is that King Eglon was said to be a very fat man. This is in Judges chapter 3 verse 17. Also, I had it on the screen, but this story comes from Judges chapter 3 verses 12 through 30. So Ehud goes with his men to present this tribute to King Eglon. He straps his double-edged sword to his right thigh under his clothing. It was important that the sword was strapped to his right thigh because the guards did not check it. They only would have checked the left side because they would assume that most people were right-handed. So that's how he got it in the first place. Ehud then goes before King Eglon and presents his tribute. After he does this, he dismisses all of his other men that carried the tribute in. So Ehud's men who carried the message in then leave after he presents the tribute. Ehud starts to walk out, but once he got to a specific point that was marked by stone images, he turned around and he said, "Your Majesty, I have a secret message for you." So Eglon looks at his men, which would be his security too, right? And he said, "Leave us." Once all of the king's men were gone, Ehud approached him. The king was sitting alone in the upper room of his palace. As Ehud got closer, he said, "I have a message for you from God." And King Eglon stood up. Ehud reached across to his right thigh with his left hand, pulled his sword free, and plunged it into the king's belly so far that the handle disappeared, guys, in the fat rolls. 17, 18-inch blade goes all the way in, disappears, the handle and all. This is how big the king was. Then it gets worse, y'all. The king's bowels start to come out and fall out. Baby, Ehud did not pull that sword back out. Baby, that thing was gone, okay? It was lost. The escape. How did Ehud escape after the King Eglon of the Moabites? Well, guys, he closed the porch door because the king had been in the upper room. He locked the doors and he ran. Now, you would think the king's men would have come back to check on him. Well, they did, guys, but they assumed that the king was using the bathroom in the upper level. So the king's men said, "Oh, King Eglon must be relieving himself in the inner room, so let's just wait." The Bible says, and I couldn't make this stuff up, y'all, they waited to the point of embarrassment. Cause y'all like, dang, he's still in there taking a, ooh. Yeah, they waited that long. And so when it got to that point, they actually went and got the key and unlocked the door, and they found the king dead on the floor, y'all. They then went to pursue Ehud. But y'all, why they have been waiting on the king to boo-boo? Honey, Ehud was gone. He had escaped to the hill countries of Ephraim. Once he got there, he blew a trumpet. And that's where part 2 of the plan comes in, because the Israelites were waiting to go to battle. When the Israelites came out, out, Ehud said, "Follow me, for your Lord has delivered you from the Moabites." They went down to the fords of the Jordan River. They would not allow anyone to cross. This was the area that crossed into the Moabites' land. They took out everybody that tried to come across there. On this day, guys, they took out 10,000 Moabites. And after this, they were free and had peace for 80 years before the cycle rinsed and repeat. So with that, let's go into part 2, my final thoughts. I guess one of the prevalent thoughts that I have always had from reading the Bible as a child on up into adulthood is that there are some crazy stories in the Bible. You think crazy things happen now? There's nothing new under the sun. These crazy things have always been happening. They happen in Bible stories. So whether you believe the stories are real or not, somebody had to write them. So these types of things happen at the very least. The judges in the Bible series is kind of interesting because on the surface, you can look at it and be like, man, this was a continuous cycle. And it was. God would deliver the Israelites. They would be so grateful. And then in short order or sometimes long order, they would forget the blessings and God would punish them by putting them back under other nations. And this could be easy to look at the surface, but going underneath it, it's a story about second, third, fourth, fifth chances. And here's the real deal. As a human, you won't always get it right the first time. You won't always get it right the second time. But I think it's important to be aware, to also know who you are, what your mistakes are, and to be willing to correct it and to take actions to do so. And I think that's the important part in life. And if you're looking at the Bible, I think that's why we got into these repeated cycles. And I think that's why the people would constantly be delivered. I also thought it was just cool that they specifically pointed out that he was a left-handed guy, because I have known people that have had histories. It's even been taught to some people that being left-handed is wrong, and it's not. It's just for what hand is dominant. It doesn't make you any lesser. So I thought this was a cool story. That's all I have for my final thoughts. Next time, we will be diving into another Bible story that I'm sure will have twists, turns, and even crazy stuff. And until next time, remember, keep learning, be happy, and always have a blessed day. Bye-bye.